back. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Grab the Remote. I'm Candler Budd.
I'm Brian Chapman. Welcome.
Welcome. And
Good
today,
to see you, Candler. All right.
Good to see you, Brian. Excited about this episode. It's Guilty Pleasures.
Yes, indeed. Guilty pleasures. And we all have them. And I just want to start off by saying with movies that are evidently guilty pleasures, they're movies that we may feel ashamed to talk about with other people because
they're guilty pleasures.
They're guilty. I'll only let you do that because you do it so well. I just got a ding, by the way, on my phone, and he just said, they gave us the waiting room verse. He is waiting. Our good friend is waiting. So we're going to get into it tonight, but I want to say it like this. I don't like the title Guilty Pleasures. I think it's a silly thing to say.
It's fun to say. Guilty pleasures.
Keep doing it all night.
Please. Guilty pleasures.
So we're going to go through, we have a special guest tonight, and we're just going to talk about the movies that we're ashamed to say that we like. And everybody's got them. Truth to power. Nice. Truth to power. So I'm looking forward to this gentleman's list, and I'm looking forward to your list, Candler, and I hope you're looking forward to mine.
Oh, always. And what gentleman is this? Do you speak of?
This is my good old friend, Brian Godleski.
Excellent.
You want to get him in here?
Yeah, I guess it is up to me since I'm the host. Sorry about that.
Hello.
There he is.
Yeah, here I am. Hi, guys.
Hi, Brian. Are you ready? Are you ready to share some guilty pleasures?
Very. I have been ready since you guys invited me.
Excellent.
We're thrilled that you're here, Brian. Once again, everyone, this is Brian Godleski, one of my dear old friends.
Hello.
Has a vast knowledge about most everything. But in this particular realm, I think it's going to be funny. I hope we're going to surprise ourselves a little bit. The one thing about guilty pleasures is that they may be someone's favorite movie, but to me, like, there's some things that I'm just embarrassed to talk about. Really happy that you agreed to be on. I'm going to jump in with one, and then I'm just going to jump straight to you. Candler and I were talking a little bit about how guilty pleasures is kind of weird, like, what is it exactly? It's like, maybe it's like for females, it might be like a cheesy rom-com that they like. For me, it's like movies that just don't age well, maybe. Like,
well said. Well said.
A lot of those.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff, even like from 10 years ago.
And there's so many things that just don't make it anymore. Like, I'm not bringing this up, but I thought Candler, Brad and I talked about this weeks ago. I was like, is Ghost considered a guilty pleasure at this point? Like, does Ghost hold up? We may have
yeah.
The Zucker brothers, right? The men who brought you the Naked Gun series.
That's how they advertised it.
Like when the demons come out of the puddles and the shadows. So let me start off, okay? And then Brian, we'll go to you. We're just gonna do a good round robin. I hope that one of you guys loves the movie that I think is a guilty pleasure. So my first one is The Delta Force. Now this is 1986. This is the Cannon Group. Now there's a documentary called The Electric Boogaloo.
Seen it?
Yeah, the untold story of the Cannon films. You have to watch it. Golan Globus. This is directed by Menachem Golem, right? So, and this is based on an actual hijacking. It stars Chuck Norris, who is now 80 years old, by the way, and also Lee Marvin, who is one of my rugged. I mean, this is just Lee Marvin is too cool, right? He died a year later, so this is his last film. They're the two Delta Force guys who come in to with their crew to take care of these terrorists. One of the terrorists is the Robert Forster, who had a big comeback with Jackie Brown, Tarantino's Jackie Brown, and he's unrecognizable. Joey Bishop, George Kennedy, by the way, speaking of Naked Gun, he's in everything. Shelley Winters, who else? Who we got? Martin Balsam, Robert Stack. I mean, anyway, this movie, the score alone by Alan Silvestri is top notch. And I don't know if you can say Chuck Norris has a best movie. I want to hear it, but I think that The Delta Force is Chuck Norris' best movie.
I want to see it. It's been so long since I've seen it. What are your thoughts, other Brian? Guess Brian.
So again, I'm going to fall on the category. I want to touch on a few things. One, it's been a while since I've seen that one as well. But speaking of guilty pleasures, I think like there's something about a good action movie, about a good just like, you know, blowing stuff up that just gets I don't want to get you revved up, but like, are people going to compare it to like, There Will Be Blood? No.
Right.
But like Brian, we were texting back and forth about this. We were talking about like guilty pleasure movies. Like I want to be able to relate to that movie from a guilty pleasure of mine, which is Roadhouse.
Yes.
And I've adapted I've taken this idea from Roadhouse about describing my immune system. Chapman's heard it. Some folks, my wife's like, well, make sure you bundle up. You don't want to catch cold. And like, I got a immune system like Swayze and Roadhouse. It's nice until it's time to not be nice. Which is such, and like, when that movie came out, like I was maybe like 10, 11 years old. And I think Swayze had just done
Dirty Dancing.
Thank you, Dirty Dancing. And like all the girls were swooning over, oh, Patrick Swayze, and all the guys like, man, he's dancing. Like when normal stuff when you're 10.
Right.
And like it's funny. I remember my dad rented that. I'm watching it with my dad late on a Saturday night, and just thinking it was the coolest thing because he's a bouncer and he's a famous bouncer. He's the best bouncer. Like, wait, is that a thing? So I can relate to your appreciation of Delta Force through a guilty pleasure of mine that way.
Well, that's a great segue because we can just move right in. Just hey, Delta Force is on Prime for free. Chuck Norris destroys terrorists. Lee Marvin is Lee Marvin. And it's a great, arousing score for America. And again, it's a cartoon movie. It's not we talked about war movies, but like this is a cartoon war movie. And again, there are some parts where you feel a lot like the hostages. They really do a good job of that. With Roadhouse, I want to say this, and Candler, I want you to jump in about Roadhouse. Sam Elliott.
Love Sam Elliott.
Best mustache in the business.
Yeah,
Here.
Ben Gazzara, who has passed, I believe he's in The Big Lebowski. Hello, dude. I'm Jackie Treehorn. That guy. The
Jeff
credits.
Healey.
What?
Jeff Healey.
The Jeff Healey Band. Rest in peace.
That's right.
He did Angel Eyes, and
Yeah.
Roadhouse had pink opening credits. That's all I remember is there pink. Any cool movie about a bouncer who destroys people needs pink credits. I mean, it's the very.
That's for the ladies.
It is for the ladies, but it's the 80s and it's Swayze and he's so good. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
Even Roadhouse, and that's a good one. Candler, what are your thoughts?
Well, I just liked it when you said it's the 80s and it's Swayze. I mean, you got me at that. Yeah, it's a kind of movie you can play and a group of people are in the room and they're all talking and half watching. It's definitely a movie you can half watch.
It's a half watcher. That's great. I love anything that can be on, but you don't have to be engrossed. Like you don't have to tell anybody to be quiet to hear the next line of dialogue.
Yeah. Is it Kelly Lynch? Is that her name? The actress, his love interest, who's a doctor, and he says pain don't hurt too. Like, he's getting staples. It's like, what? Dude, you're getting staples, and you're like, no, it's okay. Like, why are you hitting on your doctor, man? Like,
I love that he hit on his doctor, told her where he worked, and then she came out the next night.
Yeah.
And she walked in right when he's beating people up. That's the best.
By the way, I have my medical records on me too. Does that turn you on? But it does. So weird.
He lived in a barn, it was an open air barn. That was great.
He would do yoga and Tai Chi and also other stuff.
Just whatever.
Other stuff, yeah. My first pick for my guilty pleasure is also a Cannon film. Yeah. It's a movie that's over the top, and it's called Over the Top, starring Sylvester Stallone. This was between Rocky IV and Rocky V, and I think before Tango and Cash. And it's as if the screenplay said, we need a sport. So then it's arm wrestling. And I seem to be the only one I've ever talked to that liked this movie. I can't see arm wrestling now or talk about arm wrestling or hear arm wrestling without thinking about that movie. The hat turning around. I was invested. I was invested in the story. The dad that loses the son. He's the truck driver. I loved it. I think we should all see it tonight again.
Yes, I love it. So Brian, I know one of your favorite comedians is Norm Macdonald, and back when he was in the chair at SNL when he was on Weekend Update, he had one of the best lines. He would just rip Stallone so much. It was in such a like it wasn't in a malicious way. It was in such a like offhanded, like calling out the obvious way. And he had this one funny line that just like always stuck with me. Is like, anytime you can combine the drama of a child custody battle and arm wrestling, you got a winner for a film. What a weird! Like, how did you not put those two together? Yeah, that's it. Yes.
You have that, as only Norm can do it, right? So
yeah, only Norm can do it.
You have this is also this is the Golden Globus group. This is Mannheim Golem also directed this. That's like you said, canon, and the also we were talking about. I always say the late, but like Robert Loggia. Every delivery is the same. He's Robert Loggia. He's angry. And the character is Lincoln Hawk, by the way. That's
Lincoln Hawk.
Lincoln Hawk, and
that's how he knew where his truck was parked. The Hawk was on the front.
Yeah.
Where did I park? Oh, there I am.
I will say this, and I might say this about my one of my other movies. It's the best and the only arm wrestling movie, right?
It's the only one I know of. There was never an over the top 2, but I kept hoping. Maybe there will be. We'll see.
I love the guy that drank motor oil at the end. There was one guy.
He carried that around.
I forgot about that.
Like how he's not dead. He just drank motor oil.
Okay. How are we gonna psych him out? Well, I got this canister of motor oil I drink. He's in Carnival also, apparently.
Candler, do you want to talk a little bit about Kenny Loggins, the king of 80s?
Meet me halfway across the sky. Love the video with all the. I miss those, the rock videos with the movie montage.
Yeah,
back and forth, right?
Back and forth. That was always fun, but not my favorite Kenny Loggins song. But
no, very ballady.
Yeah,
total ballad.
So here's a fun question for you guys. Obviously, being children of the '80s, when that movie came out, I would say like I remember going to that movie with my dad and my brother and just being enthralled, like, oh, what a cool movie, and like that wouldn't happen nowadays. But I remember soon after that, young boys would arm wrestle a lot. Did any of those kids think like, oh yeah, the over the top, that's how you win? Like to do that with arm wrestling? Did anyone else experience that? Like that was like a thing, like to beat anyone?
Oh, totally. I still try to do that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
What about, there was the one match that he had, Lincoln Hawk, that where he psyched the guy out and just like did it all in one fell swoop, where he's like,
oh yeah, he pulled down, then bang.
Bam, bam, bam.
Yeah,
that was the one.
It's
like it was like a semi-final battle, but it was like impromptu. He like happened to stop at this truck stop to pick something up. There's like, no, the semifinals now, and then he goes in this back room, and the semifinals are happening right there. See you in Vegas or whatever it was. But I was totally into it, man. The hat turned around backwards, epic.
I'm gonna keep saying.
Oh, sorry. I know ESPN aired the Ocho this past weekend, which was like all the weird sports. So there was a part of me hoping they'd have arm wrestling on there.
Nice.
They didn't.
Didn't happen.
No.
So this is a great lead into my next one. But I will say that, I mean, this is one man's trash is another man's treasure. I do hope you guys hate these because again, this is a guilty pleasure. So here's mine, 1985. Just like Over the Top, the only and the best high school wrestling movie, Vision Quest.
I love that movie. I have a fun story about that.
Okay, good. Let me go through it. So we have a young Matthew Modine, Linda Fiorentino. Shoot. We have a Ronnie Cox, who of course was Drew in Deliverance. He was in Total Recall.
Yeah.
He's done some good bad guy things. You have Michael Schaffling, who everyone knows as Jake from 16 Candles, like that. He's like his buddy, his wrestling buddy. And of course, Brian Shoot, the immovable force. So you have Loudon Swain, the wrestler. There's a lot of great journey in this. The soundtrack is very good. Red Rider, like Lunatic Fringe, is played a million times. Lunatic Fringe, that whole thing. And it's just about him losing the weight to go on, he's going on this Native American vision quest to do something great in his life. Along the way, he falls in love. There's some good wrestling involved, and Again, it is questionable at best, but I've always dug it. Brian, you have a Vision Quest story?
I do. I do. When I saw that, I was like, oh man, I've got a fun story, fun anecdote. So back in high school, my brother was actually a really, really good wrestler. And I was on the team mainly to stay in condition for football. You know, like my dad had this idea of like, if you're involved in sports, you're not going to be involved in other bad things, which, you know, was you're too tired. And as a way to motivate my brother and I to like do better in wrestling, he rented Vision Quest. It was like, okay, but why? Like, this isn't gonna like motivate me. Like, but look what he's doing. Like, yeah, that's an actor in a role. Like, that's not real life. Like, I get it, and like, great that he cut down 2 weight classes, which is. And then I'm thinking like, well, that seems kind of dangerous because, you know, he's already a lean guy. Why is he? He's not just smart. He's being kind of reckless here for the team.
No,
like that's where my mind. Like it didn't motivate me at all. My dad's like, oh, he'll motivate. Like, no, not really. No.
What about your brother?
No, he was just like, you know, like well, whatever.
I can see your dad like walking in with the VHS, like the Blockbuster tape, like
yeah, he was like so like, oh, I got something for you and your brother to watch here. It's gonna really motivate you for wrestling.
He's like, now listen, don't pay
2 hours and not do anything. Okay, like
don't pay attention to Loudon Swain passing out and his nose bleeding profusely. Like
yeah, we laugh like shoot. He's like walking without a log up. He's doing stand-up like that's it. Wow, really like yeah. So that's my anecdote for Vision Quest.
Well, I appreciate that's a good one. Again, I haven't seen it in a million years. You know, Madonna has a few songs in it. So,
yeah,
crazy for you.
Like they go up to grandpa's. What are you gonna say, Candler?
No, I was just gonna say I feel like I've never seen the movie, but I feel like I've seen the movie because of the Madonna "Crazy for You" video.
Since we're talking about sports movies, I'll go to my second guilty pleasure movie, and I am embarrassed to say it, but I don't know. I'll get into why I it's a guilty pleasure. It's The Replacements with Keanu Reeves.
Nice.
Which is I fully recognize that it's a bad movie. And I feel like what the producers and writers were going for was let's remake Major League, but with football and these weird asides of like the players going on strike, and it'll be a tip of the cap to the 1983 NFL players strike. And it's all these like these ridiculous things of like, well, the players are greedy. It's like, maybe they're all greedy, you know, like it's a lot of that. And it's such a weird way it starts. Like they're talking about the lockout happening. And then all of a sudden it's that, oh God, I can't remember Brian, you know the actor's name. He was the grandpa in Problem Child. Who am I thinking? What's the guy's name?
My mind is a blank. I wish I could.
It's that old guy who's always the grandpa and everything, and he's like having a drink. He's like, "These guys stink. Go get me Jimmy McGinty." Wait, who? like you know, Brian from our old improv days. You know, like one of the things you want to establish earlier is who are these people and why do I care? So it's like, well, who is Jimmy McGinty? And like, it's Gene Hackman, who is just a phenomenal actor, clearly just cashing a check wearing the
hat.
What's a Bear Bryant hat? Like, so is he Bear Bryant but of the NFL? And like, there's this whole thing with Footsteps Falco, and like, it's all these tropes of like what they think an athlete movie is, and it's so bad on every level.
So I can remember not liking it at all, and and that was the time where you're sort of waiting for Keanu to make maybe the next Matrix or something. His name is ridiculous, Shane Falco, and I wonder too, like that's his second football movie. I want him to have a movie with Johnny Utah where like they duke it out in some weird parallel universe. Candler, I've seen The Replacements and it's a TBS movie. Like you would see it on TBS.
Oh, it's on TBS. I just leave it on. Like
it's the old like you can leave it on. Candler, are you a Replacements guy?
I don't think I've seen it all the way through, but it wasn't that I walked out. It was that like it was on TBS or something. I've seen it it's kind of like the A Christmas Story. I don't think I've seen it from beginning to end. I've just seen the whole movie in snippets. But I remember I liked it. I thought it was some fun scenes. I always loved Gene Hackman. He could read the phone book. So yeah, I remember I enjoyed it from what I saw.
from the year 2000, right? And there's a John Favreau.
He plays the linebacker who's just like really
That's right.
fired up all the time, like, and it's like, that's not how anyone
doesn't
is.
work.
Like, and then like there's a sumo wrestler, and it's almost like they're trying to like shoehorn these ideas. Because I love watching football. Like I love hearing about like I love hearing like Tony Romo break down why a play works, and like Tony Romo doesn't such an everyman sense because he clearly knows the game, and it's like you kind of feel like you learn something when you listen to Romo. But then you're watching the replacement. It's just like, you know what? This guy's a sumo wrestler. He should be a tackle. Like, what?
So
I'll hire these bouncers because they're guard. It's like, okay, now we're just being.
And it really is a big a mixture of other better movies. Maybe Slapshot, which is one of my favorite Paul Newman movies. Perhaps a little bit of Longest Yard with Burt Reynolds. Like all the sports movies that you mentioned, Major League, all that kind of mixed in a pot. And it again, it's a GP for you, right? It's just
guilty pleasures.
Yeah, I'm not going to change it if it's on. Like,
Here.
And I understand the same thing with the ones I've talked about. So thank you for that one. What's next? Who's up?
I'm up. This next one, this is one where so many times I've shown someone this movie or a scene from this movie, and they're just like, "What?" I'm like, "I love this movie." 1985's Crush Groove, starring Blair Underwood as Run's brother, as Simmons.
Russell Simmons.
Simmons, starring Run DMC, Curtis Blow, LL Cool J is in there, Beastie Boys, the Fat Boys are in it. Sheba E. The Fat Boys are the comic relief. Run DMC has kind of a serious story. DMC is kind of in the background, but a lot of fun. All those, if you were into that time period of music, it's great. But it's so bad, but yet so brilliant at the same time.
And what I remember about it is it's a phenomenal opening, and that was when Run DMC was actually getting like globally recognized. And
yeah, it was pre Walk This Way, but they were still really starting to come along though.
They're like the King of Rock, right? Like
exactly
opening piece.
Yeah.
Michael Schultz directed. He did it like Cooley High and a few great Richard Pryor movies, and did a lot of television. And to me, it's pretty well done. I mean, I think there are some people like, wow, like during that time period, even the way it's like the title card itself, like the Crush Groove, amazing on television. But yes, also like Rick Rubin's in there, who obviously was the he's still with us, like producer of Beastie Boys, Run DMC. I love that whole era of hip hop, and so to me, that is a phenomenal time capsule.
The thing that jumped out to me, like Candler, where you said the Fat Boys, the comic relief. Well, at that time in anything, if the Fat Boys are involved, they're always the comic relief.
Exactly.
It's like, and you hear about all these like Beastie Boys obviously went on to do some great things. Run DMC, like my goodness, they're just universally like people can like them and they're good stuff. But the Fat Boys are like, again, we talk about doesn't age well. It's like, oh God. They had an album where they were paramedics or something like that, like where it's like
no, that was Disorderlies.
Disorderlies.
That was another movie, yo.
The human beatbox, rest in peace, right? Yeah. It like I said, it's a time capsule, totally, and I think it's perfect for the list because it's just not universal. And that's the one thing about it, like it's off a lot of people's radar because it was there and then they just they fall away. But I think it's a cool record of that the music.
Yeah, and I mean, if there's one thing that's universal, it's poetry. $3.99 for all you can eat. Well, I'ma stuff my face to a funky beat. I mean, it's got everything. Epic.
That's the best. How do you follow that? I'm gonna try. So I guess I'm up. Look, I'm coming to my end here, but I'm gonna do my best, and here it is. Stallone's on this list a lot. This is.
I think Sly himself is a guilty pleasure.
He is a GP. He is definitely in between Rocky and Rambo. Everything he makes is a guilty pleasure. So this is Demolition Man.
So
yes.
So
I like it. I like it.
Thank you.
So
I really enjoyed it.
good. So
It's
good.
great. So here we have Wesley Snipes. We have a very new to the scene Sandra Bullock pre-Speed.
That's
and you
right.
can tell she's great in this, by the way. She
Good
has
brat.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The other police officer.
Yeah.
So many good supporting characters as well. So it's basically a movie where a rogue cop who is, I mean, he's just gonna thumb his nose at all the authority. They cryogenically freeze him for his crimes, and then he wakes up because they have to unfreeze him because the worst villain in the world
From his time period.
Yes. So they come out and the future is really, really hilarious. In that you, first and foremost, the verbal morality code where you cannot curse. And if you say anything, any profanity, you get a ticket. The seashells and using the bathroom is ridiculous.
He doesn't know how to use the seashells.
He doesn't know.
What a condescending thing. Like, hey.
It's like they used to use wadded up pieces of paper. And also that Taco Bell won the
Restaurant Wars.
The Restaurant Wars.
Yeah.
So a lot of fun, a lot of good action. Wesley Snipes is great. Sandra Bullock's great. Sly is Sly. And
you can when he's being frozen, you can see his genitalia.
Oh no! Oh boy! Yeah, not on TBS, right?
Yes, I remember that. So, do you remember when the future is set in Demolition Man?
It's like 2020. Gosh, I'm
like 2021 or something.
It's like next year.
It's like next year or something.
Always.
We're gonna start using seashells next year.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah, I mean, again, I haven't seen it in a long time, but I always call it my, the movie that I only watch it with myself.
Brian, in there a scene where he jumps out of a chopper or something, and it's a bungee cord, and then he gets to the bottom and he just unhooks the bungee cord, and he's like there. This
is the very first, I believe, when he's like saving all those people, and Simon, whatever, I forgot his name, not Simon Rex.
As a connoisseur of action sequences, that was a fun action sequence. My idea of guilty pleasures is, well, I like it because everybody I talk to doesn't like these films, but I love Frequency. Came out in 1999. It's a time travel film about. It's a TV show now. That's right. I did hear that. Yeah, I've never seen it, but I love the film, even though everyone else hates it. So a cop in 1999 who lost his father as a kid pulls out his old ham radio. He gets on the ham radio. He's able to talk to his dad back in 1969. And then everything else happens after that. I think the third act gets a little crazy. It really asks the audience to believe a lot. But I really enjoyed it. Would you agree with me, Brian Godleski, that on the third act, that's where it really gets crazy?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
That's like it starts off in a cool way of like, oh, okay, there's that like you mentioned that the radio and that like, because of a frequency wave, like you can buy that science, so to speak, of why that might work because of whatever frequency they're on. But then it's like, oh, now we have to solve a murder mystery. It's like, what?
Yeah.
It's like, and like it's like they're adding hats onto hats with this. It's like, all right.
But I like the concept of the only thing that's traveling in this time travel story is information.
Yeah, it's not them. And like,
yeah.
And then one guy got rich by investing in Yahoo.
Yeah.
Like, of course you need that one there. Like
exactly.
It's a weird thing. So my last guilty pleasure one that I will say is it's a fun one. It's Cocktail. Little backstory. My mom specifically was a really big Tom Cruise fan back in the day, and I remember we ended up buying the soundtrack. The soundtrack is good of Cocktails. Good soundtrack.
Beach Boys.
Yeah, Kokomo, Aruba, Jamaica. Like I think John Stamos is in that video.
He is.
Wild again. Like no was it? So it's just it doesn't age well. And I remember being really liking the soundtrack and us listening to it in our minivan, like when I was in like elementary and middle school, and just like loving the soundtrack. Oh man, this movie's great. He's this cool bartender in New York. And I remember buying it in college on VHS, and like finally getting a chance to watch it and being like, it was the same feeling I got after watching The Phantom Menace, which was trying to convince myself that I liked it. And like I do, but I now I'm like I would have it on as like white noise, but I recognize just first of all, Tom Cruise's character is like pretty unlikable. Like he's a bad dude.
Brian Flanagan.
Yeah. Yes. And there's a fun poem that one of the guys says early on, which is just like, where I don't know, it's like, I think he's a bartender at a TGI Fridays in Times Square, and I'm like, that's not how bars are. Because I live in New York, I'm like, that's not how bars. No one goes to those places.
It was '88, and it was Tom Cruise, so everything is that's reality. So I need to say the poster. I need to say something that was on the poster.
He's doing that number.
When he pours, he rains. And that is where, that's what hooked me. All those movies, but here's what was happening. Top Gun came out. Maybe you like Risky Business, but Top Gun came out and everybody wanted to be a fighter pilot. And I mean, it's like you went to see the Tom Cruise movies. You went to see Days of Thunder and you gave it a pass because it was that time period where we all just thought Tom Cruise movies were the best. Kind of ending up to me with A Few Good Men. Cocktail.
The Firm.
So, yeah, The Firm. Cocktail. Elizabeth Shue. Brian Brown is his mentor bartender. Kelly Lynch, is she in that?
Yes.
So, yeah. Candler, what are your thoughts on Cocktail?
Respectfully, I hated it, but I don't really know why I hated it. And if I were to watch it now, maybe I would like it.
No, you'd hate it.
I think I never liked him. In that, like you said, I think I didn't like him. I thought he was a jerk, and I don't know. I just never liked it.
It goes all over the place. The trailer makes you think he's at the beach for the whole movie,
but he's not.
He's
like
in
10 minutes.
Yeah, he's in the city, trying to, he's in, he's in his classes, and it's just, and then like
he's going to business school.
That's right.
Elizabeth Shue's dad doesn't like him. The whole thing is just so.
Well, he gets her pregnant and then leaves, and it's like, hey, come on, guy, come on. Like his socks get like sweaty, where I'm like, okay, that's just. And I feel like they tried to recapture that a few years later with another kind of like the female version of that, which was Coyote Ugly, which was.
Oh yeah.
Right Kind of Wrong is a catchy tune, but like they're all like dancing on the bar, like they're doing like an Irish jig, like, and that's all right. Like,
so, so it's questionable. I'm glad it's on your GP list.
Yeah.
There's a lot. I think Tom Cruise has made some guilty pleasures. They've kind of moved into that realm just because they're not aging well, and I think he has kind of his brand has certainly tarnished through the years. Before we go, there's so many that I think were on our list. I'd love for us to maybe go round robin with a few of our honorable mentions for movies that we're embarrassed to say that we think are good. And there's one I really want to bring up because I think it has to be said. Beastmaster.
Yes.
That's a near and dear one to you and I, Brian.
Yeah,
that's a very near and dear one to you.
One of our good friends was an extra in that.
Did he play Kodo or Podo?
These are my
Kodo and Podo.
Listen, I know I can't get into the Beastmaster and all the things that it is and what it's all about, but I can tell you everything about the Beastmaster. I like it better than Conan the Barbarian, 1982. I need to tell this joke. HBO. What does HBO stand for? Hey, Beastmaster's on. that's when I saw it 1,000 times. So the Beastmaster, I needed to say that. Anybody else got one?
I like the much maligned Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. Ooh. It's usually people's least favorite Star Trek movie. I like it. Now, is it one of my least favorite Star Trek movies? Yes, but I do enjoy the movie. I enjoy the camping, the hanging out with Kirk and Spock and McCoy. Uhura and Scotty are randomly a couple this time around, which I like, and Chekhov and Sulu seem to be a couple. They're off camping alone somewhere. Maybe they're not, but I remember getting that vibe. But I enjoy it. I think it's fun. A lot of people complained about the special effects. They look pretty good to me. Directed by William Shatner and starring William Shatner. Another one I love is guilty pleasure is Chevy Chase in Memoirs of an Invisible Man.
Say that one. I was hoping you were going to say that.
Yeah,
one.
I don't know. There's something about it. I like seeing Chevy Chase's I don't know, serious side, and I was totally invested in the film. I was totally followed it all the way. I
The
really enjoyed it.
90s were not good to him.
Yeah, they weren't.
The king of the 80s. King of the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
And 70s.
And 70s, yeah. A couple of mine, kind of quick hitters. I mentioned Time Cop, which is like I love those. Eraser with Arnold Schwarzenegger
Which one?
Eraser.
Oh yeah.
You've been erased. Like it's so good. I'm like, oh, I like this. Like he just messes with people's identity. It's like, wow, like that's a thing. And like, quick hitter there. The Long Kiss Goodnight, because it has England Dan and John Ford Coley as the main song. Like it's this great yacht rock ballad, but she loses her memory and then she gets it back somehow, kind of a little Kill Billy style in a way. Those are two of mine. And any Steven Seagal movie from the 90s, Under Siege.
Steven Seagal. I love Under Siege.
Yeah, so I love those. Like they're like,
Hard to Kill.
Hard to Kill.
Hard to Kill.
So are you talking about I'm not talking about moving?
Yeah. And I really want, yeah, that's Samuel L. Jackson's in that one. It's my dad recommended that, and he's like, oh, you just such a good one. My dad loves that. My dad will not, if you want to get him to not shut up about anything, it's talk about national treasure around my dad. That's his citizen.
Nick Cage has to be in some. I have, Burt Reynolds has not been brought up. He's made about 5, rest in peace. And he's done some great stuff. 2 of my guilty pleasure Burt Reynolds movies is Hooper, which I think is, pre-Smokey and the Bandits. Hal Needham directed everything. He's an aging stuntman. The late Jan Michael Vincent. You've got Roscoe P. Coltrane is at best. James Best. Everybody's in it. Brian Keith, Sally Field. And it's got the red Trans Am rocket car at the end. And I think maybe another the Cannonball Run, Part 1. Cannonball Run 1 is so questionable in so many ways, and I love the bloopers at the end, like the outtakes. So those are my 2 Burt Reynolds guilties.
We got to get out of here, but Brian Godleski, thank you so much for joining us today. You've been awesome.
Thank you guys for having me. It was pleasure's all mine.
Can we do some kind of pose so we can get a good thumbnail going? So whatever you want to do, just a silly face or whatever.
A silly.
Yeah. All right, and go. I love it. Brian, thank you. Brian, thank you
guys.
Love you guys.
Awesome,
we'll talk
man.
soon.
Thank you. Stay safe, y'all.
Thank you. We'll do it again.
Yes.
See you soon on Grab the Remote.